Going on. I just want you to know all is not lost. I just need time to clarify matters. The situation is not lost.
I've had complaints from our regular patrons. They don't understand what's going on. I find it hard to explain to them that the new owner is undoing all the traditions of the Apollo, under the illusions he'll make more money.
The box office takings are down.
This past month is the worst I can remember in the Apollo's history.
As bad as the time that infernal young projectionist was stirring up trouble.
Well, sir, I do think
Jeffrey!
that...
Jeffrey!
Go and see to that, will you, Jeffrey?
Oh, Jeffrey! Jeffrey, God bless us and save us.
What is it, Mrs. Clack?
Oh, I've never seen the like. I wouldn't have the stomach for it.
Yes, but what is it?
Oh, it's the men's toilet. The dirtiest, vulgarest thing I've ever seen. Done all up in black marker. Oh, I couldn't go near it, Jeffrey.
It's all right, Mrs. Clack. It's
Jeffrey.
all right. You go make yourself a cup of tea and sit down. Sean and I will deal with the matter.
I don't know what the place is coming to. We never had the like of people with such minds in here before. It's unholy, so it is. It's a sin. I don't know at all. Mr. Maguire has lost the run of the place entirely.
Right on cue, Jim comes out of his office as Mrs. Clack speaks. Geoffrey and Mrs. Clack and Jim exchange glances. The unity of their sealed world has fallen apart. Respect has gone, and yet there's worse to come. The decline continues that evening when Kilquade arrives to collect the takings for the show. Jim hands him over the small bundle of money.
I normally store the takings in the safe overnight and lodge it in the bank each morning.
Yes, well, it winds up in my pocket anyway, doesn't it?
I'll need a receipt for this money for accounting purposes.
There's little enough money being made from this cinema without declaring every penny of it.
Adrian, I think the time has come for you and me to have an honest conversation.
What's this? Are you going to tell me the facts of life?
Well, in a sense, that's so.
Maybe some other time, Maguire. I have people waiting for me.
But it's about the Apollo. I think an important lesson has been learned in the past weeks.
Don't tell me you've come up with an idea to boost box office.
There's a reason why the takings are so small. It's got to do with the nature of the Apollo. I'm sure you have the intelligence and maturity to realize that just because you want something to be so doesn't make it so. This is a small suburban family cinema. Now, Adrian, I reckon you've got a head on your shoulders that can make sense of sense. I don't reckon you're such a man that can't own up to a mistake. It'd take a small man to hide from the truth, and I reckon you can see now that right was on my side. I ain't trying to make a gain of it or nothing, but after all, I've been doing my job here, son, since you were knee-high to a tumbleweed, and it's only natural that...
Good God, Maguire, you've gone mad. Stone mad. You're spending too much time alone in this office.
No, please.
I'm going, but you... You're gone.
Please, Adrian. Mr. Kilquade, please. If you let me explain.
He's lost. He's alone. Jim stands as if in a trance, alone in a cinema. The Duke comes towards him. At first we see only the feet, the walk. Jim is gazing, dejected, at the screen.
I knew a man once who kept to himself, cared for his land and his family, hadn't much to say. Not that he wasn't decent to a citizen or wouldn't let a man drink from his well if he passed through all peaceable. But then one day a big-time cattle rancher from back east came by. A man who wanted to take over the county. A man who tricked and lied.
Yes, I know this one.
Well, this man I knew, he was a hard man to push. But it turned out you could only push him so far.
And then he went to the old trunk at the foot of his bed and he opened it.
That he did.
And he took out his silver-studded gun belt and his Colt 45.
That's right, little fella.
and he rode into town, and he faced up to the man from back east.
He sure did.
Even though the gunslingers who worked for the big man laughed at him. They didn't know. They didn't realize he'd been a gunslinger himself long before. He faced them all.
Because a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do.
I'm not a hero.
Let me tell you, Jim, no man ever stands up to another man less than he stands up to himself. You gotta know what's inside you, know where to draw the line. And when someone crosses that line, it's time to make your move.
I don't know what to do.
You got two choices, Jim. Be a man or back off. Just remember, a man can't shave himself without looking in the mirror.
But it's not that simple. I mean, I'm sorry, but
never apologize, son. It's a sign of weakness.
I need time.
I never saw a clock that could change what had to happen, Jim. The folk here look to you, and you can't help them by laying low. You gotta stand out in the middle of the street and call his name.
I can't. I just can't.
Life goes on. Life is altered. Jim is retreating and Kilquade is gaining in strength. What can happen next? How can it all end?
Geoffrey!
What is it? What?
Did you see Kilquade?
How could I? He wasn't here.
He's outside. He's outside with two men in suits. They're nosing around and taking measurements.
Measurements? Of what?
Of here! Of the big field at the back of the cinema. What could it be?
Where are they now?
Did you not see them up on the balcony?
No.
Well, they just had a gawk in. What do you make of it? Is he selling the place?
I wish he would.
Geoffrey!
I wish he'd sell it to one of his brothers. I've been talking to my friends in the other cinemas. His brothers have simply left them to run as before. No interference. If we're lucky, he'll sell the Apollo to his brothers and go back to England. Let life go back to normal instead of ruining us.
I don't trust him, Geoffrey.
What can we do? If Mr. Maguire won't stand up to him, we can only endure what he does.
I think it's high time I started looking for another job.
I don't understand. I don't know why Mr. Maguire is letting this happen.
The place won't last, Geoffrey. I'm sorry to say it to you.
For the first time in my life, I'm ashamed of what I do. I usher seedy people into the dark, where they watch films that should never have been made. It's a disgrace to film and to our screen. At this stage, I wouldn't care if I retired.
Jim arrives in the Apollo. As he walks through the foyer, Geoffrey and Sean emerge from the cinema with their brushes. He smiles at them, but they lower their eyes and walk on to the staff room. Jim is puzzled. He goes to his office and opens the door. The music halts as we see Kilquade standing at the open safe.
What are you doing?
I'm taking action. Finally. I know exactly what to do.
And what's that?
I've had surveyors come look at the cinema. At first I thought about selling the land at the back, but then they talked with me, and I realized I've been making a very basic mistake.
What are you talking about?
You see, I was looking for a way of making money out of this cinema. Impossible. The money isn't in the cinema. It's in the land the cinema is on. Now, this is a very good area, a well-developed, attractive suburb close to all amenities. I'll be able to sell the lot for development.
What?
Yes, the surveyors reckon it's worth at least 300,000 as the market stands.
You can't be serious.
I knew I'd find a solution, and I have. Face it, Maguire, the day of the cosy suburban cinema is gone. The day of the apartment block rules. If my father was alive in my age, he would have built apartments, not the Apollo.
You You actually intend selling off this land and having the Apollo torn down?
I'll surprise you. I'll do the decent thing and agree to severance settlements for you and all the staff. After that, it's welcome to the real world.
But what about Geoffrey and
Now, the
Mrs.
staff here are either old enough to retire anyway, or else there's Sean, and, well, he's young enough to find a new job. And as for you, well, I'm sure a manager is a manager in any profession.
You think that's all the cinema is? A job?
You'll survive. Don't worry. Everyone learns to survive. I did. Now, I'm just collecting some papers here, and then I must go talk to the solicitor and the estate agents.
Adrian, Mr. Kilquaid, please. You don't understand.
Tell you what I'll do. One last gesture. The surveyors say the market is good and that it'll take maybe 2 months for the property to be sold and the sale to go through. In the meantime, know what I'll do? I'll let you run the Apollo your way. One last stroll down memory lane. Pick any films you want to show. All right?
We have to talk.
There's nothing to talk about.
No, I mean it. We have to talk.
I'm in a hurry.
Then later.
I'm going out for a meal.
After the meal.
We are close on Jim's face now, so close that on the big screen we see the droplets of sweat form on his face. He can't contain the pain or the rage. There are no secrets on film. We see every detail. We know this man and we know his world.
You must see me. You must come back after the show tonight. We have to talk. We must talk.
Even Kilquaid is unnerved. We can see that he wouldn't know how to refuse. Something's happening. We hold on him in silence, and then he replies.
Tonight, then. After the show.
Adrian Kilquaid walks out of the office past Jim. We hold on Jim for a moment, then we track along behind him as he leaves his office and goes across the foyer to the restroom. There, in the dim light, we see Sean and Geoffrey and Mrs. Clack and the projectionist. Steam rises from mugs of tea. Geoffrey is listlessly wiping the brass buttons of his uniform. Jim stands before them, and at first they are almost dismissive.
It's time to talk.
Now they pay attention. We cut to each of them in turn, close shots, studying the faces. Only Sean is mystified. He looks to Jim, and he looks to Geoffrey.
You can go now, Sean.
Yes, you can go now.
But I'm not finished.
His words trail away. No words are needed in film. In some of the early spaghetti westerns, minutes could pass without dialogue. It was all in the close-ups, all in the action, frame by frame. The story unfolds. Sean rises and takes his coat.
I'll be back for the show.
Yes, you come back for the show.
The audience is under the control of the director's vision. At times in film we are painfully reminded that we are not, in fact, the observer. There is another beside us pointing out what we may see. The director. So now we want to stay with the conversation, but the camera follows Sean out of the room. He closes the door, and we hunger after each last frame as the door closes on the four inside. We hear the low drone of a voice, but instead of the words becoming clearer, they fade away as the camera tracks with Sean across the foyer and out into the cold, unreal daylight. We want to be back in that world, but that privilege is denied us as it is denied Sean. Cut to a high, wide angle of the Apollo in daylight. Sean walks out of shot and we dissolve slowly into night. The last patrons leave the cinema. The shutter gates are drawn